This is an Ellis Mowers and More small engine vlog. Stay connected on Instagram and Facebook at Ellis Mowers and More. Comments or questions? Leave them below or email me, ellis@ellismowers.com. And as always, like and subscribe for more small engine content. Today's going to be a vlog combined with a little bit of small engine repair. And before we get started on what I got, a little bit of story time here in the truck. I've already gone to get them. Didn't know if I was going to get them originally when I went to get them yesterday. The first load is going to be an $80 load, 2 riders, 2 push mowers. The riders are probably parts mowers. They are complete. I may be able to scrape one together and make a full running mower out of it. Now the second one is going to be a 0 turn. Now the story behind this one is I had to go about 20 some minutes away to get the first load. Now the first load came from a guy that I sold a backpack blower to, and I got 5 riders in return for it. And he just reached back out and said, hey, I have these 2 Yard Machines riders for $80. Would you want them for that price? He said, I'll even throw a couple of push mowers in. I'm like, sure. So as I'm scrolling through Marketplace, I find another 0 turn for $300. This is a Toro 42-inch time cutter that's right down the road from where I'm picking up these $80 riders. So that guy, I caught him within the first hour of him posting it. It said it needed engine work, that the wife had put too much oil in it, and that's all I knew about it. Everything else looked in good shape. And so I messaged him. He was a little slow to get back to me. I thought that he was just trying to ask a bunch of questions originally, but it sounded like he had a ton of messages from what he told me, and some people were giving him lowball offers and being wishy-washy and asking if it ran and stuff along those lines. And I'm sitting there trying to tell him, look, I don't care. You told me what's going on with it. I'm coming to get it, and I'm going to pay you $300. So I finally was able to get the address from him and go pick that up too. One thing I do want to mention, if you're going out and buying things, number 1, don't use the generic "is this available?" That's pretty commonplace. Don't use it. Number 2, show that you're interested, and the best part about showing that you're interested is putting a phone number and a time that you can pick it up. And I think between those two, that helped me get this item. So without further ado, we'll go back to the trailer here. I'll show you everything that I got. We will also attempt to get the Toro fixed in this video too. It does not need much at all, so that's a good thing. And hopefully we can, turn it around pretty quickly here. Y'all heard me chat for a few minutes there. I'm not going to hold you or prolong the penultimate part of this video. Here's the Toro that I picked up. You can see it has a little bit of rain on it because it did rain a little bit last night. This is a Toro Time Cutter Z420. It is from 2005. Again, very good shape. You can just see how good the deck has been kept up and how clean it has been kept, which is really good. The tires will probably need a little bit of ATF in them and just reseating on the beads. No big deal there, especially because that back tire's got a tube on it, so that's even better. So that's awesome. And again, the seat's in good shape. He said it was kept under a shelter up until April, and then he had to move his, I think it was his Model A underneath the shelter, and this had to get kicked out. So it's only been sitting outside for a few months at the most. Again, a small 0 turn, 42-inch. We left the ignition switch on, so the battery's probably dead again. But it's got a single cylinder Briggs, probably like a 19 or an 18 or something along those lines, from 2005. It's the first generation Intech style, so it's still got the AVS, and I think it's got the flywheels is a little bit offset as well, so that helps it run a little bit smoother as opposed to the newer ones where the shaft keyway is straight up and down. This one's got a little offset to it. Discharge chute is really the only cosmetic damage that is on this thing. I will see if I can find a discharge chute for it, or not find a discharge chute, but be able to retrofit a discharge chute that I have here. And apart from that, it's just going to be, well, I could probably show you. We got just a ton of oil in the, because you can see the oil is really full and really thin, so I really didn't want them to run it while I had it there. You can see it just kind of running off right there. So I need to put an oil change on it. A bonus about this is he bought a new carburetor for it and just didn't have time to put it on. And he has also put a brand new starter solenoid on it. He was in the process of doing that when I pulled up yesterday. So that's really nice that both of those have been taken care of. And the battery is from February. It's an Interstate battery, so that's about $60 right there, most likely. Depending on what cold cranking amps it is. Is it a 230? No, it's a 350. This is probably going to come out of this mower, and I'll put a 230 in it, so I can save that one for like V-twins and stuff. Thought I did pretty good on this. I think an afternoon's worth of work, or just maybe a couple hours at the most, is probably going to yield me about $1,000. Or it's probably going to sell for about $1,000, and I'm not going to have to put any money into it. So that's awesome. I'm really excited about that. Have never had one of these Toros before, so toward the end of this video, we'll just get it running right. I'll show you that everything's good on it, and we'll be done with it, hopefully. Now the other items that I'm going to show you, I got for $80 for everything. So we'll go over to the back of the truck first. We'll do the push mowers first here. So it's a little bit of a mess in the back of the truck right now, but what I can show you is that we have an old battery core, a couple of double stack pulleys, brand new blades on a 38-inch deck for this Yard Machines, the hood for the Yard Machines, the rear cover for that Toro, and then we have two push mowers back here. One is an old Craftsman, I believe it's it may not be a Craftsman, but whatever it is, it's got a Tecumseh on it. Okay, it is a Craftsman. It just doesn't have an old Sears mower. So, missing the gas cap, but I got plenty of Tecumseh gas caps, so that ain't a big deal. And then just your generic big wheel Boland's 500 series 21-inch push mower. So, nothing crazy. It looks like he tried to do some carb work, missing a couple springs and whatnot. You know, Briggs Classic engine is going to be super easy to fix. Probably have this one running within an hour or so of working on it, hopefully, as long as it's not blown up. So that's that. Now the other two items I'll show you here on the trailer are the remainder of the Yard Machines. I don't know why. Every mower I get from this guy, he just has everything just taken apart and then just almost like gives up. And you know, I got to put stuff back together. I got so many mowers that are just apart that I have to put back together just because people took them apart. But this one's got the 15.5 horsepower. He said it was smoking or something. Probably just a head gasket or something along those lines. It's the Power-Built Briggs 15.5, which are not the worst engines in the world. Probably this one's probably I don't have a seat, so I don't know how old it is, but probably 2009 or 10 or so. Especially with the way that the deck is. Probably about a 2009 model. Let's see. 310-707-003301. I can show y'all on the engine how old it is actually. Well, he's got the valve cover upside down. It may be a 2015 actually, because 150123 ZD is on the serial, so it may be a 2015 actually. A little bit newer than I thought, but that's pretty good. And the other one I have is basically a complete mower, save for the seat and the engine. It's got the deck on it, transmissions in it. Looks like a couple things have been fiddled around with it on it, but nothing to the point where it's ridiculous, I don't think. So again, we're getting close to the off season. I should have a lot more time to put together machines. I'm trying to get some stuff lined up back here to where I can get them fixed and make that happen. A couple of other quick happenings before we get on to the Toro is hopefully this mower deck is going to leave. Somebody wants it for 20 bucks. Now my late uncle, gave my dad this bed edger here, and my dad was going to use the engine off of it for something, but the issue is that the double stack pulley that was on the engine had messed up on it. So I need to put a double stack pulley on it. These things actually bring really, really good money, I think, anywhere $1,500 or so. So that'll be nice if I can get that back going. Just a couple other tools that he had that he no longer needs and I don't need is this old push mower right here. I'll probably sell it for like $50 or $60 and probably have to put a pull rope on it. Maybe able to get 70 for it. Then this AgriFab lawn sweeper, the 38 inch, so it's a little bit bigger than most, and he's had it forever. Don't really need it anymore because he just blows off the leaves at their house. So this has been sitting up underneath. I've tried to use this before on my yard. Don't really have a use for it either. It's just really big and bulky, and this thing will probably bring around $150. I'm about to list it right now. So it's time to work on this now. I'll show you what model it is down here. It's a 74327. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it's made in 2005 according to the engine date code. This has got an Intech Briggs. Don't know the horsepower, probably like an 18.5 or something like that. It may even be less than that because it's a 286 H77. So usually a 28,000 series is like a 15.5 or a 16. Once you get above about 16, that's where they start getting into the 31,000s. Air filter is alright. We'll probably put a new one on it because we're going to make this thing look super nice. These air filters on these style Briggs are not the easiest to put back on. The battery, I'm actually going to keep this for a V-twin because it's basically a new battery from this year. 350 cold cranking amps, so I'll put like a 230 in it, and that'll be more than enough for this machine. So it turns over, as y'all saw. It just is hydrolocked. So this actually is a gravity fed system. If you look back here, it comes directly from the tank out to the carburetor, so a very simple system, luckily. It's got the original Nicky carburetor on it. Access is going to be a little tight getting back there, but we'll be able to manage. I will take this engine cover off just so we can get in there a little bit better. I may even find one that has a sticker on it to make it look a little bit better. See if we can get a little bit more money for it. Emissions information. January of 2006 is when this was made, right there. So emission, that's funny, emission control system, fuel hose. So that's interesting. Well, like I said, I don't know if I showed y'all the oil already, but the oil is really high and really thin. So you got gas intrusion in the oil, and you have a new starter solenoid. So we've got a decent amount of stuff here. What I'm going to do off camera real quick is use, I think these are T40s, and a couple of 3/8 or 10 millimeters, depending on the year model. And that'll get you what you need. We'll take this off. That way I have a little bit better access to everything underneath. So I got the cover off, as you can see. And I'll show you that it's hydrolocked. I don't know if you can see the liquid inside there, but as I turn, you see kind of all that moving around and squirting out the breather tube there. So, and then the gas tank is empty as well. So we've got all of that going on. The choke is stuck on here, so we've got, well, is it stuck or maybe it's not? So the choke's not stuck, but this needle and seat, and with the Nicky carburetor, it's just easier to just pull the whole thing out and replace it. And we've got one over there, which I'll show you, he sent to me. If that one doesn't work, I have 3 Hypa carburetors here that'll work just fine with it. So what we need to do next is, luckily they give you a little bit of room to work here. It's 2 7/16 to take this breather tube off, and then if you get a deep well 8 millimeter, that will get you the studs to take the carburetor off. We also need to change the oil and the filter in this, and that is going to be a messy job because these frames are not fit for oil drains for these mowers, as you can see. So I don't want to use my sucker because of how much gas is in the oil. So this is going to be a mess to change the oil out. About to take the carb off. So you take those 7/16 inch nuts off, and then you have the deep well 8 millimeter stud that you take off. That gets your carburetor to this point right here. You can pull the choke out and just disconnect it. And then the throttle, a lot of times I like disconnecting the spring first so we don't bend that all up, and pull it out just like so. And that's really how easy it is to get this carburetor out. While I've got everything out, this is what I'm going to change the oil. What I'm going to do to hopefully mitigate the mess that this is going to make is jack up the front of the mower a little bit and hopefully help it trickle all towards the back here. So that's going to be a huge mess, but we are going to wash this mower before we send it off anyways. So I see there's a couple of holes down here. Looks like drain holes or something along those lines for the frame. So my goal is to hopefully just have it all drain out there. But we'll see, guys. I feel like this is going to be a mess. We're back here. We're going to take the spark plug off. And you're going to watch a lot of gas come out. Most likely here. And if it doesn't come out when I do this, it will when I crank it up, that's for sure. Look there, the last couple threads, they were being difficult. Look at all that junk. That's all just coming out of the piston. It was hydrolocked from all of that junk that was in it. So We'll let that drain out. And if we want to shoot mess out the atmosphere here, I'll move y'all out of the way. That's why I drug this out of the garage, just to get it all purged out here. Oh. Turns over good. Alright, I think we got all of it purged out, which is good. Now, the oil change. Man, I don't know. This is going to be messy. I hope I don't get all junk on the... There we go. Let it gently trickle all the stuff out, I suppose. A gentle trickle. We'll let it do what it needs to do here, y'all. And I'll get some new oil in it, get a new filter on it, and source the carburetor, which I have already here. And I'll let y'all rejoin me when I put the carburetor on. Before we get started putting the carb back on, I just wanted to show you how thin what was inside the crankcase. That wasn't oil, that was about 90% gas that was in there, and it was a ton. This thing is going to be a smoke show when we crank it up, because I'm sure the muffler is just slam full. We're putting this carburetor on that was provided to me when I bought the machine, and I've already put the throttle linkage back on. I'm about to put the choke linkage back on. And I put the studs, exhaust studs back in, or back through it, the intake studs that go between the carburetor and the intake. And we're going to throw that choke in. We're going to slide it through the slot that it came out of. And we're going to tighten up all of the bolts here. And so we have an 8mm deep well. Probably a 5/16 will work just as well. I also don't know if I have a 5/16 deep well on my tool set. Alright, so to hook the fuel line back up. And we'll hook the fuel line back up. I'll grab the pliers. Hook that clip back up to it. Fuel tank's empty because all the gas leaked out of it. So we ain't gotta worry about that. Need to grab some straight pliers, I think, to do this. But I'll get that hooked up. We'll get the elbow on next while we're here. That's all I'm gonna put on it right now. I just want to hear it run before I put or do anything else to it. So I'll put the breather tube back on. These are a couple of 7/16 right here. we'll just tighten it up. Let me get everything just buttoned up real quick, and we'll start it next. I gotta put the spark plug back in it too. Alright, we're back together. Don't forget to plug in your anti-backfire solenoid there. Guys, this thing is probably going to be a smoke show when I crank it up. Here's to hoping that nothing else is wrong with it. And so we'll see here. Choke's getting stuck, but I know how to fix that. Alright, here we go. Ugh. My concrete's gonna be black. Forgot to put some gas in it. This is going to be a mess. Oh, there's a bunch of junk in the tank too. Ugh. Got a couple leaves to get out of the tank. Alright, this is take 2. We're going to see if we can get it to run this time. Look at all that junk that came out. See. Might be flooded. See if I can get it started with some starting fluid. Oh, let's try this. It's gonna try and mess me up. All right. Yeah, it's not pulling gas in there, so I don't know if it's something blocked in the fuel system right there at the edge of the tank, but I will investigate it. We do know that it runs. It's going to blow out a bunch of black smoke here, and when we get to the point where it's ready to go, I'll let y'all know. Good news. Just a fuel filter, which is good. Restored the fuel flow back to the carburetor. One thing I am noticing though, it looks like the little rubber grommet that goes on the bottom of the gas tank is leaking a little bit. So we will take care of that. I just want to make sure this thing runs before I go, runs good and does all the fun things before I go any further with it. Before I turn it on, I'm going to make sure that the blades are free. And they are, so that's good. I'm gonna set y'all back and just watch all the junk come out of this exhaust. If it starts, that is. Like I said, we've got a lot for it to burn off. A lot. great though. Again, there's just so much in that exhaust that needs to come out. So we're going to let that happen on a test mode. I'm just going to go to town on it. Again, what I've got to do, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to test mow it and let it run completely out of gas. Because I do have a leak, like I said, at the grommet that goes into the machine. So you just kind of remove this portion of the tank, couple things along those lines, and we should be in relatively good shape. A couple of other things I had to do to it. So this spindle is bent back a little bit. I was able to take a hammer, because what it was doing is when you were turning, it was hitting up against this deck mount. When I was turning, it would hit that. I have took a hammer and just kept knocking it back up right here, and I think it clears itself now. It's not exactly what I want, but the other side is just off the rim. I just need to take a couple of 3/4 to take it off of the rim here and put it back on. I'm going to take care of these small things. I'm going to put the engine cover back on. I am also going to take, so what I've got to do here, you know, y'all saw the choke sticking, and it's a common thing on these aftermarket carbs. I've got to take this intake pipe back off and just kind of take a drill bit and just kind of wallow out the end portion of this intake pipe where it joins the carburetor, so that the choke butterfly doesn't get stuck like it is now. After I do that, that'll be good. Again, I just need to get the fuel system right as well in terms of not leaking, and sharpen the blades. This thing is going to be ready to go here pretty soon. It's a little bit of a crude way to do it, but this is how I just take a drill and just use the side of a drill bit and just wallow out this right here, because it just needs a tiny bit of space. Again, this gasket seals around the carburetor, so as long as you don't touch that, you're fine. But it just seems like with the aftermarket carbs, the choke decides it wants to stick on these type elbows. So that's what I do. I'm going to put this back on now, and also the engine cover, fix the tire. So I'm in the process of taking the gas tank off, because we're going to have to replace the fuel line, or actually the tank grommet down here on the bottom. If y'all can see it right there, it looks like a generic tank grommet. You can see it's leaking a little bit. So this plate goes underneath the machine, I believe, like, how does it go? Like this. 4 10mm take that off. I also took off part of the fender 10mm right here, and a 12 or a ½ inch with a 7/16 inch nut on it right there. That allowed me to lift the fender up. I think I've got it up enough to where I'm going to be able to get this off. There's also underneath, which holds the gas tank to the frame, a couple of clips, slide clips that went right here, where you can see, ooh, the glare is pretty bad, but the other one's right there. So that's where I've gotten to this point. You can see we've got a pretty big leak still going on here, and I'm gonna see if I can get this off without causing too much of an issue. So I've got the fuel shut off, and the tank is ready to come off, I think. I just got to get it out from the hole here. So I'll let y'all ride with me here for this. See if I can get it out. Part of me just wants to cut the line right there at the grommet. Make this easy. It's the original fuel line. I want to put new fuel line on it anyway, so. I just hope the shutoff is working. Alright, shutoff is working, thankfully. So let's pull this bad boy out. Get it out of here. There we are. Awesome. The shutoff is kind of working. We do need to drain the tank out anyway. So there's the tank. And the grommet is really easy to pop out. Okay, so we're out. Yeah, you can see it's just all coming apart right there. So I can, number one, put a new grommet on this shutoff, which might work. Or number two, if I have another shutoff, which I don't know if I do, I may just replace both of them just to start fresh. So we'll see, guys. Let me see what I can find. Going ahead and put an air filter on it back and the engine cover back on it. New air filter. I have also finished the fuel line. I put new fuel line throughout, and I'll show you underneath here. The grommet, all you have to do is pull it out, get you a new tank grommet. If I remember, I'll link one in the description as well. And the best thing to do is to fit the shutoff switch back into the grommet, and then take some WD-40, spray around it, and then just kind of rotate it in there. And that ended up working for this, so that's awesome. As you can see, there's no leaks in it anymore. We've got the fuel line routed back around here, which is excellent. We're in the process of putting the fender and the tank back on. Again, we have this tank bracket that you'll put on, and underneath here you see the clips that I was mentioning that clip in on the front and the back here. And then the only two bolts I took off for the actual fender itself were this 10mm right here, and then a 12 or a 13mm down here on the bottom, or a 1/2 inch, and then with a 7/16 inch nut. I'm going to put all those back together, and then I'm going to see if I can retrofit a discharge chute. Well, I think we found a solution. I have an old John Deere discharge chute here that I was able to retrofit. It's going to work really well, I think. I drilled a couple of holes for the mount. I'm going to paint that mount black just so that it looks a little bit better on this machine. And I've got to take off just a tiny bit of extra right here on the edge, not even that much. And this thing right here is going to look factory almost. So that's awesome. I'm going to do all that. I'm going to give it a good run in the yard, clean it up, make it look good, and the next time y'all will see it, we will be done with it. I've got to grease everything up. The couple of small things that I've noticed, I don't know if you can see that right front spindle is a little bit lopsided, like it had a hard hit or something at some point. This side, I don't know if it's been pushed in or something, and this right here is not in the right spot, so now it is. Okay, so this side I think has been pushed in just a tiny bit or something along those lines, because I had to align the deck a little bit right here, and it's also trying to touch this this anti-scout wheel here, especially after I adjusted the deck. So I took a hammer and kind of knocked that back some, and that's better now. And then this spindle was trying to hit on this, and so I knocked it up some, and it's not doing that anymore. So I guess these are kind of the weak points on these machines. I don't really see anything else. The hydros are working pretty good. One of them's a little bit faster than the other, but for a mower that's almost 20 years old, a residential mower, I mean, you can't really complain that much about it, which is great. All the belts are good. Just sharpen the blades and we'll be done here pretty soon. There it is, y'all. Gave it a good wash. It turned out really, really nice. Really nice. Considering this mower is almost 20 years old, for it to be a zero turn, to cut a decent amount of acreage for as long as it did, it's held up really, really well. So I'll give y'all one final look around. Really, the only knock I've got on it is you can kind of see that this right front spindle is a little bit bent, and that's it. That's it. The right front spindle is a little bit bent. The left front kind of tries to rub on the little bracket there, which I've kind of helped mitigate. It's not bad unless you're cutting on like 2 inches or lower. So not a lot of people are going to be cutting dirt. And this chute turned out excellent. It looks like it goes on the machine, doesn't it? For the most part. You can even pull it up. And just sitting right there, we've got the blade sharpened. I mean, the condition of this mower is really, really good. You don't really find too many of them that were used and taken care of like this, because a lot of these cheap Toros people bought and used the mess out of them. And the other positive is that it's got a Briggs on it. It's not a later model. That most of the Toros went to Kohler after a certain year, so that's a big plus too. Like I said, not a lot bad to say about this. The right hydro is a little sticky, but again, they haven't worked in years, so that seems to be getting better too. Starts right up. The park brake is integrated with the one thing it could use is some gas shocks for the zeros. The left side is a little bit faster than the right, but I had no trouble getting into the groove. Of cutting with it. Good, guys. It's running excellent with that new carburetor. Cleaned out the fuel tank and stuff. Idles down pretty good. And does everything that it needs to, so that's awesome. I'm really happy with how this one turned out, guys. So that is it for this Toro Time Cutter Z420. Again, it's a early 2006 model year. It's got the Briggs & Stratton engine on it. I can see why this was, I think these mowers are fairly liked. I don't really have any issues with them, honestly. I think they could have made the front spindles a little bit stronger, but that's about it. And let me know your experience. This is the first time I've ever come across one of these. Again, as you saw in the beginning of the video, it was more of a convenient buy than anything, because I was already going to the general area where this mower was in to pick up those other mowers that you saw in the beginning of the video. Saw it for $300, knew exactly what was wrong with it, because he said that he was going to put a carburetor on it and that it would not turn over, or it was smoking like crazy, and then it wouldn't turn over because the carburetor was leaking gas into the oil. That's exactly what happened. We put a carb on it. We have put a new fuel grommet on it, fuel line, fuel filter, and discharge chute, all that were included in the purchase or that I had here at home. So aside from the oil and the filter, I have $0 additional in this machine. I had got it for $300, and I'm probably gonna, it will probably sell for anywhere between $1,000 and $1,200. They don't bring a ton of money, but I knew that I could probably fetch about $1,000 for it. So that's what I'm looking to get for it, and we'll see if it sells for that. 0 turns, for some reason, I can sell a whole lot faster than a lawn tractor. People just eat them up because somebody's going to think, honestly, somebody's probably going to think this is a much more expensive machine than it actually is. For the money, it's going to be hard to beat. So thank you again for watching. We'll get this thing out before the end of the season here. That way I'm not hanging over it, and just make my cut of the profit, so to speak. And I'll catch y'all on the next video. Thanks again for joining along for the ride and the entire journey of this Toro 0 turn. Hope y'all enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.